The MG ZS EV is the second car that I have ever reviewed. My conclusion back then, it is not perfect, but it is one of the best value EVs that money can buy. 2 years have passed now since that day and the MG ZS has got a facelift. So, what did MG improve, and maybe more important, is it still one of the best value EVs that money can buy? Hello there monsters and men, ladies and people. This is the facelifted MG ZS EV and welcome to Recharging. As you probably already noticed, yes, the car does look different. But when I saw the first pictures, I thought, ooh, that is not an improvement at all. But having it here in real life, and especially in this very beautiful red color, I don't think it is an ugly car to look at. The biggest difference with the pre-facelift version is this closed grille. And also the facelift does get LED headlights as standard. The MG ZS EV had the charge port behind the logo, which was fancy, but it was a bit clumsy because you could not see what you were doing unless you looked like this. Well, MG listened and now the charge port is right here. You can now actually see what you are doing. Since I am talking about the charge port anyway, let's talk about some other improvements. First of all, the finish of the charge port. Yes, those things are important. No cheapo plastic plugs like many other EVs, but very fancy flappy covers. And second, the MG ZS EV does now have support for vehicle to load. That means that you get this adapter and you can put this adapter here in the charge port. Yep, like that. And then you can power any device with a maximum of 2200 watts with the battery of this car. What has not changed is this empty void. I mean, look at it, so much wasted potential. I hope there is a smart aftermarket solution to put a Frunk in here. At the rear, the changes are less radical. That means different bumper, different LED lights, and that's it. Since not a whole lot has changed, also means that you still have a boot space of 448 liters. With the seats folded down, you have a boot space of 1166 liters, so roomy and practical. The facelifted MG ZS EV is available with two battery sizes, one of around 50 kilowatt hours and a WLTP range of 320 kilometers, and one of around 70 kilowatt hours and a WLTP range of 440 kilometers. I am driving the long range. One thing to notice though is that MG chose to use a LFP battery for the smaller battery packs. A characteristic of a LFP battery is that it does not mind to be charged to 100%. So that means that in daily driving you always have 100% capacity available instead of the 80% that is recommended for a lithium-ion battery. A funny thing is that the smaller battery pack has a stronger electric motor, or at least more power, than the larger battery pack. Both versions have 280 Newton meters of torque, but the smaller battery pack has 177 horsepower and the larger battery pack has 156 horsepower. Both versions do 0 to 100 in around 8.5 seconds and the cars are limited to 175 kilometers an hour. So does the MG ZS EV still drive the same, or does it drive differently? Well, luckily the answer is it drives differently. Where the old MG ZS EV was a comfortable car to drive in, the comfortness was not refined. I mean, if you took a speed bump with a too high of a speed, you flew through the roof. If you took a corner a bit too sporty, you could feel the weight leaning to the sides. No, the facelift did not make a sporty car of the MG ZS EV, but the comfortness is way more refined. And they actually made it a lot better. No, this is not a car for people who like a more sporty driving car and a car that feels a bit more planted. But for most people, this is a car that brings you from A to B, well, in all comfort. Again, they really improved it. What they did not improve, and what is a real pity, is the adjustability of the steering wheel. You can still not pull the steering wheel towards you. And because of that, finding a perfect driving position may be a trouble for you. It also is a bit for me. The car does have good seats though, so that is a nice thing. Good adjustability in the seats. And another thing is that I cannot remember it 100%. I mean, you still sit quite high in the MG ZS EV compared to other cars, and also quite high in the car. But I have the feeling that you sit a bit lower in the car compared to the previous model. Also here at the rear, not a whole lot has changed. That means, well, the seat in front of me is in my typical driving position. I am 1 meter and 85 centimeters. Plenty of knee room. I can shove my feet under the seat in front of me. This is the luxury version, and that one has a panoramic roof, and therefore headroom is not that great. The MG ZS EV compared to other new cars is not that wide, and therefore sitting here with 3 adults will be a bit cozy. Besides that, there is no hump in the floor. There are pockets behind the seats in the luxury version. There is an armrest in the luxury version with 2 cup holders, and there is a USB port and a USB-C port back here. Again, not a whole lot has changed in here compared to the pre-facelift version in terms of quality and looks. But that means it is still good. It is comparable in here to a Kia e-Niro, for example. But MG did improve where they had to improve. First, the car doesn't beep 100 times at you anymore when you get into the car. Second, there is now a digital display in front of the driver instead of an analog one, and you can actually see your battery percentage right now, where in the pre-facelift version you couldn't. And the most important improvement is the infotainment system. No turbo dog navigation software anymore. What you find here is MG's iSmart system. The same system as in the MG Marvel R. And I did like the system in the MG Marvel R, and I also like it in here. It is a user-friendly system, it is responsive. Again, I have no major complaints about it. I only wish that the system was a bit higher on the dashboard, so your eyes are closer to the road. Under the infotainment system there are still some physical buttons for example, your temperature and your volume, so very nice. Besides that, yes, there are a few quirks in the infotainment system, like the audio not playing automatically when you turn on the car. But luckily the system is updatable over the air, so that can be improved. It also has support for Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, and there is an app available for this car. Finally, let me talk about the real-world efficiency of this car, because I gotta be honest, I'm impressed. During my test period, during the day, it is between 12 and 16 degrees Celsius outside with sun, so that means that the heater of the car does not have to work that hard or that the air conditioning is on. And while doing 100 kilometers an hour on the highway, this car shows me a consumption of 17 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. 17! That means that at this moment the real-world range is 400 kilometers. The WLTP range of this version is 440 kilometers. So in summer, yeah, you can do that. And before picking up this facelifted MG ZS EV, I did not think it could do that. I did not think it would be this efficient. So again, I'm impressed. But there is one thing. I mean, there's always a thing, right? And that is that the MG ZS EV is not as efficient as it could be. And that makes me really sad. A complaint about the pre-facelift MG ZS EV was that while using adaptive cruise control, it did not use regenerative braking. And MG didn't fix that. They didn't fix that. And also the car has 3 regen modes settings, 1 which is the least regen, then 2 and then 3 which is most regen. But while slowing down, while pressing the brake pedal, the car will never regen more than the regen setting you are in. So if you have it on level 1, least regen, and then you have to slow down and you press the brake pedal, the car will not regen more than the maximum of level 1. I mean, why MG, why? All these things worked fine in the MG Marvel R. So why didn't you fix this in the ZS EV? This is basic electric car stuff. And the sad thing is that this is probably still a hardware thing, so they also can't fix it with an update. Again, that makes me really sad. And because of the limited regeneration, this car might not be as efficient as you might think while doing city driving. Also, the car does not have a heat pump, so in winter the range will be more 330 to 350 kilometers. The version with the smaller battery pack still has a single phase onboard charger as standard. I mean, I always say every EV, it doesn't matter how big the battery pack is, should have a 11 kilowatt 3-phase onboard charger as standard. Luckily, the bigger battery pack does have that as standard, and then charging it from 0 to 100% will take you about 7 hours. For fast charging, well, the smaller battery pack and the bigger battery pack do have different maximum fast charging speeds, 75 kilowatts and 92 kilowatts respectively. But both versions take around 40 minutes to charge from 10 to 80%. Yes, the MG ZS EV is available with all modern driving and safety features. One thing that I noticed though with the adaptive cruise control, besides the regenerative braking, is that when going over a bump on the highway, or well, when going over a bump in general, but you use cruise control mostly on the highway, is that the car tends to change its power output. And because of that, well, the car accelerates or it slows down, then the car tries to go back to the speed you set it on, and then you have a few acceleration changes in a short time. And because of that, the adaptive cruise control on a more bumpy part on the highway can feel a bit jerky. And well, I don't know why this behavior is, because I never experienced this before. It is a bit annoying sometimes, and I hope MG can fix this with a software update. MG did improve on most things they had to improve on, but I can't help it that a voice in my mind is telling me that if only MG spent a bit more money or maybe took a bit less profit, and yes, I know the MG ZS EV already has a very competitive price, that the car could have gone from an 8 to a 9. But besides that, I mean, one of the best value EVs is still one of the best value EVs and is now a way better one of the best value EVs. So much actually that you would be crazy to not at least pay a visit to your nearest MG dealer if you are looking for a EV in this price range. And that was the review of, well, the facelifted MG ZS EV. I hope you liked it, and if you did, please give a like. If you have something to say, leave a comment, and it would be awesome if you subscribed. And then I would like to say now, thank you a lot for watching, and as always, to be continued.